what we're doing is the backstory, and some of you know this, is Sarah and I are the two in our office right now at this moment in time who can do career counseling. So we're videoing this kind of, we decided we'd have this kind of session because this is the singular question we're asked most often at this moment in time. And that is, the career fair is coming up and I need to know how to work the fair and I want to talk about a career fair strategy. So with lots of requests for individual appointments for that one thing and only two of us, we thought, you know, maybe we should create a couple of sessions and then video it and send the video link out so we could reach as many of you with that kind of need as possible. So that's the backstory. And so thank you all for, I don't know how many are here, Sarah, but there's a whole bunch of you. So I was in a class this morning, a couple of classes this morning, and we had some objectives to cover some of the same stuff, but we got into resumes so hard that we didn't even get to the rest of the list. So my list for you for like pre-career fair, kind of a pre-career fair checklist, if you will. The first thing on that list is the resume. Okay? If you haven't revisited your resume, you need to come on in. You need to revisit your resume, and you need to take advantage of Extreme Makeover Resume Edition, which is next week, and I brought some of our little handouts if you don't have one. Extreme Makeover Resume Edition is next week. It's the 23rd, 2 sessions, 9 to 11, and then 1 to 3, and the 24th, only a morning 9 to 11 session. The table is set up right inside of Walton, just as you're walking in from the Schollmeyer Plaza. Myself, Sarah, some industry professional friends of ours are going to be there doing 5-minute resume revisions on the fly. So job one, the first thing on the list, pre-career fair preparation, is you have got to make sure your resume is updated, and you need to make sure you have visited that event, unless you're certain that things are okay with it. Okay? So first thing on the list, the resume. Second thing on the list is the list. Okay? On our website, and that's waltoncollege.uark.edu/career, waltoncollege.uark.edu/career. In the left frame, you'll see students, and when you click that drop down, you'll see a career fair hyperlink for you. You click that, and it's going to take you to our student career fair page, and there you will find, provided in either Excel format or PDF, the list of companies that are coming. The way Sarah configures the list will then factor into the kind of the next thing we're going to talk about, and that's the strategy. But I want to overview how she's got this list configured. You'll see the name of the company, their URL, the majors they're looking for, classification of student, and you'll see over and over and over again, multiple times, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So underclassmen as well. So if you're sitting out there and you're an underclassman, there are things there for you. And then if they've told us, there's a column that indicates whether they'll be here recruiting for full-time, part-time, internship, or some combination of those three. And then finally, for our international students, we've included a column. We ask if they have sponsored in the past. And international students, that's important for you because you may be looking for a company that will sponsor you, and we have found that companies who've done it before and understand the process, well, they're just more likely to do it again. So that's there for our international students. So the first thing is the resume. The second thing is the list. The third thing is the strategy. The third thing is the strategy. The strategy involves the list. So you need to print that list. You need to bring your printed copy with you. And you need to review that list. You need to grab a highlighter. Some people are using 2 colors. They're developing a system with which this color means this and this color means that. But you need to highlight in some way the companies that you know you want to talk to. Now, there's one challenge that I would issue you right now. When you look at that list, there are going to be a whole bunch of companies that you will immediately recognize. Immediately. You know, you drive their car, you ate their cereal, right? But there's going to be a whole bunch more that you won't have a clue as to what they do. As you are highlighting this list, I challenge you right now to use that URL that Sarah provides in a column, do some investigation, and highlight some companies that until you investigated what they did, you might have just walked right past them. Highlight some companies that all of a sudden, now that you've investigated what they do, they are interesting to you. When you do that, you will find opportunities that other students will miss. All there is to it. Helmerich and Payne is on there. Does anybody know what Helmerich and Payne does? They're an oil company. You might have thought they were an accounting firm, right? They're an oil company. We had 3 interns in Tulsa with them last summer. They had an over-the-top experience with this company. They had high-level projects that they did. There's your challenge. So the strategy is you have got to get very, very familiar with the list. You've got to highlight the list. As you're highlighting the list and as you're deciding which ones you want to highlight, do some research so you have an understanding of the companies that are coming. As you're doing that, you need to factor in the amount of time that you're going to have to spend there that day. So the time frames, everybody remembers 10 to noon and then 1 to 3. Noon to 1 is their lunch. You're welcome to stay, but they're gonna move from their table back to where they're going to be having lunch because we want our recruiter friends to be able to sit down for a second, have a bottle of water, and relax just a minute. Okay? If you've got all 4 hours, then you can highlight a whole bunch of companies. If you've got a very limited amount of time, then you need to get real strategic about the ones that you highlight. So you need to use those columns. Okay, yes, I'm interested in this company. What are they recruiting here for? If I'm looking for an internship, then you better see I in that column for what they're recruiting for. And what kind of majors are they looking for? So maybe you can drill some of them down to either all business or your specific major. The more companies you can talk to, come on in. The more companies you can talk to, the better off you are. It's just like anything else. Statistically, it's a numbers game. The more contacts that you make there, the more potential is generated. Okay? That makes sense, right? So that's the list and the strategy. The attire is the next thing. The next in your pre-career fair checklist is the attire. What are you going to wear? You need to think about it now. Plan for it now. If it needs to go to the cleaners, take it now. Ladies, if it's you need to think about the suit, maybe. Business casual at a minimum. Everyone knows that. Business professional is my own personal preference. I think it makes the best first impression. And I just think it does. Gentlemen, for you, that's suit and tie. Ladies, for you, that's a ladies' business suit, which is a jacket and a conservative length skirt that matches the jacket or slacks that matches the jacket. Ladies, though, y'all need to mind the shoes. Here's what I mean by that. I know you tell me that you can walk all over campus in those 6-inch things. I know you tell me you can, but there's going to be a big crowd there. You're going to be on your feet, and the last thing that you're going to need to have to worry about is feet that hurt. So, you don't have a wardrobe malfunction, ladies, meaning the pants are hemmed to be worn with the 6-inch heels, and you're going to wear flats that day. You for sure need to figure out what you're going to wear. Get it to the cleaners, park it in the closet, and be ready to go. That's part of the plan. Also, as you are considering your attire for that day, you don't want to do anything to take away from the image or the message that you're trying to leave them. So ladies, you don't want to have hair that you have to continually be pushing out of your eyes. Gentlemen, I don't know that this beard here is a good thing at all. I don't know that it is. I know that you express your individuality in multiple ways, but I don't know that, the tongue stud is a good idea. Well, I'm being real with you. I don't know that the tongue stud is a good idea. And I don't know that the nose ring is a good idea for career fair. Express your individuality in other ways that day if you don't. Also be mindful of colognes and perfumes. In a lot of cases, people think that a career fair and that kind of interaction, because there's a lot at stake for you guys, is an anxiety-producing kind of event. So, you're getting dressed for the fair that day, and you got the suit on, and guys, you pick up the cologne, and you give yourself, the squirt that you usually give yourself, but then you think, it's going to be an anxiety-producing day, so you give yourself a couple of extra squirts. Ladies, you do the same thing with perfume, and then when we get 1,000 of you in there, with the extra squirts, you see where I'm going with this? I'm a jewelry person. I don't have much on today, but I usually have more than one bracelet and a whole bunch more necklaces, and you don't want to jingle, girls. Ladies, you don't want to be jingling too much. Gentlemen, we don't worry too much about that for you. Now's the time to think about attire and the picture of the total professional package. Okay. The last thing on the pre-fair checklist is the 30-second introduction. 30-second introduction. You're going to need that 30-second introduction. I've called it a 30-second commercial about yourself, however you want to think about it. This is something that does produce anxiety in students. You have no clue, you don't have any idea what to say. Thinking about what to say when you walk up to a table and address some of these recruiters at career fair freaks you out. Okay, here's the deal. There's really only 2 categories of introduction. There's only 2. The first category is, I've applied for a job already. Because see, the other thing you're going to do with the list and the strategy is after you get everything highlighted, you're going to cross-check the ones that you highlighted with Razorback CareerLink. And if there are jobs, internships in there already that you are interested in, you're going to apply for those in advance of the fair. So then, the 30-second introduction is easy. It's, hi, here's who I am, here's my major, here's when I finished. I was so interested in your next generation program that I've already applied for that full-time position. I wanted to come by today to introduce myself to you and your team. Thanks for recruiting here at the University of Arkansas with the Walton College. Thanks for your support of our career fair. Is there anything else you can tell me about that job? That's National Oilwell Varco, NOV, and that they will be here recruiting for their next generation. It's a management training program. It's a full-time gig. That's a real job. Okay? So it's, hi, here's who I am. Here's my major. Here's when I finished. Here's what I've already applied for. Wanted to come by today, introduce myself to you and your team. Thanks for your support of our career fair. Is there anything else you can tell me about this job, about this internship? Okay. So 30-second introduction, category number 1 is you've already applied for a job. 30-second introduction, category number 2, second and the last is you haven't applied for a job yet with them. Because maybe there's not one posted. You cross-checked CareerLink and there's nothing there. Okay. It's still easy. It's, hi, here's who I am, here's my major, here's when I finished, and here's what I'm looking for. Hi, here's my name, here's my major. I'm a marketing major. I finish next May. I'm getting a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, which is a holistic business degree. I'm emphasizing in marketing. I'm looking for opportunities that you think I'd be a fit for with your company. Can you share with me some information about those opportunities? No muss, no fuss. No big deal. But you have to think through it before you go. And you have to be mindful of who you're talking to. In the category number 1, which is the preferred category, I've already applied for a job with you, you need to bring with you some sort of a list of the things you've applied for. So you can intelligently walk up to General Mills and say, I was so interested in that business management associate internship, I've already applied for it, I wanted to come by today to say hello to your team. Is there anything else you can tell me about the internship? But if you don't remember, you see what I'm saying? So you have to bring that kind of preparation as well. Here's a sidebar for you guys. A lot of these companies will note the applicants that are already in their pool that actually follow up, come by and visit them at career fair. They'll put a little star on those resumes. That's another indicator of interest and intent on your part. And that's a big deal. Okay? So that's your pre-career fair checklist. The resume, the list, the strategy, which Sidebar includes career link. The attire, 30-second introduction. So now it's the day of the fair. So let's talk about, I'm going to walk Sarah, I'm going to actually move something. So let's talk about the fair and what's going to happen. So you're going to pick the bus up right over here, Dynasty Limo Bus. It's clearly marked, you won't be able to miss it. I'm going to drop you at the gate that you need to go into, Reynolds Razorback Stadium. You're going to go through that gate, you're going to get on the elevator. You're going to press the button that the sign in the elevator tells you to press. When the doors open, you're going to have your student ID in your hand. This is new. We're going to have a couple of student check-in tables that feature 4 laptops where you will swipe your ID and it will print your name tag with your name and major as it appears in ISIS right now. Okay, so it's going to streamline student check-in. You're going to put that name tag on your right because when you reach, even if you're left-handed, you're going to probably shake with your right hand. So when you reach with your right hand to shake hands with these nice people, it's going to put your name right there where they can really see it. As you're thinking about what you're going to wear, be mindful of how that name tag will look and where it'll go and how it'll ride, okay? Especially the girls. Guys, you don't have to follow. Okay. If you're Leadership Walton, you're going to be given a sticker put on your name tag that identifies you as such. Okay? Companies notice everything. You think they won't, but they do. I have a friend who is a long-time recruiter for the largest retailer in the universe. And she always tells me, Renee, remind your students of this. When they go to career fair, we notice everything. We notice everything that they're doing. We notice everything about them. And they think we won't because there's so many of them there. We notice how they approach our table. We notice how they walk up to our table. Are they walking up to our table, making eye contact with us as they do, with purpose and intent, or do they appear as if they are wandering around with no direction? One, the approach is purposeful with intent, the other is clueless. You've already made a first impression, and you haven't handed them that spiffy resume you worked on, and you haven't opened your mouth yet to deliver that 30-second introduction you worked so hard on. And they've already got an impression. One is this person has purpose and intent, and the other one is this person has no idea what they want. Okay? And they notice that. Now, I don't have to remind anybody in this room that a good first impression is the goal. A bad first impression can be something that you cannot recover from. And they will remember. They will remember. Have done enough company research that you can identify some of the things they make, some of their brands, especially if these are companies on your I've got to talk to these people list. The kiss of death is if you walk up to the General Mills table and start referencing cornflakes. They don't make cornflakes. Kellogg's makes cornflakes. Their head-to-head competition makes the cornflakes. Somebody will do that. Okay? Do some company research to at least a little bit of depth for the ones you want to make sure you talk to at the very minimum. Because that's a deal breaker right there. I mean, and you may not even realize you've made that mistake until it's all over with. Right? That's day of fair. See as many people as you can see. Pick up business cards if they have them. Pick up business cards if they have them, and then do this. After you, let's say you just talked to somebody you loved. You just talked to somebody you love. You've got their business card. There's a whole bunch of empty seats right over here. Take a second, walk over to a seat, flip that card over, and make a couple of notes about the conversation that you had. Then that evening, after you leave the fair, you pull out the cards that have the notes on them, because those were the ones that you were the most interested in. You send those people a thank you email for attending the career fair. Nobody will do this. Nobody does this. Weave in something that you talked about that maybe is more personal that you took the time to write on the back of that business card. It's a kind of an identifier for you. Everybody does something like this after an interview, and you should. Nobody does it after a career fair, and we always tell you to. But this gets you noticed. This gets you, wait a minute, that's extra attention to detail. They like that. They look for that. They look for people who are attentive to every detail. And that's just next level attentive. If they tell you, and they may say, I'm not accepting resumes today. I'm inviting you to go online to our corporate site. Here's the job number, or here's the name of the job, or whatever. Don't be offended if they won't take your resume. Some of them don't do it that way. Their preferred way to do it is, and they're telling you what it is, go to our website and click on this job and apply for it. We'll get your resume that way. And some of them will say that to you. Don't be offended. It's just it's part of the way they have to do things. Okay. The other thing is, I know you want to make a great first impression, and I know you want to have meaningful conversations with all of these people, and I know that you will, but there are going to be a lot of students there. Be mindful of how long the line is kind of behind you. I mean, you've had your shot, you've had your 2 minutes, or however long it's been. You know, and maybe it's time for you want to circulate too. You want to see as many as you can too. That just gives the next classmate of yours their time to talk to that recruiter as well. Okay? So think about being respectful of everyone's time, your time, the person behind you in line's time, the recruiter's time. There will be some tables that will have a line all the time, the whole time, because they're recognizable brands. So you may have to go to another table that's in your plan and swing back by there. Be that flexible. If you get off the elevator, you check in, and you just start like freaking out in your mind, even though you've been to this session and you've thought about what you're going to say and all that other stuff, you come to where Sarah and I are, we'll send you to a recruiter's table. We'll tell you which company to start. They're all nice, okay? They're all nice, but there are some who've just been doing this for a long time, and we'll suggest you start with one of them, just to get you in the groove. Don't let me catch you just hanging around the side. Don't come in there and talk to 3 people and then just hang around the side. I'll get up from the table and I'll come over and tell you need to get back in the game. You need to get in the game because the game is on. Okay. They'll notice that too. They'll notice the wallflowers. They'll notice the wallflowers. Think about the tone that you deliver the 30-second introduction. We had a guy, sorry, I'm going to tell this story. We had a guy a few years ago who was walking up to tables like this. Table right here. He'd walk up to the table and he'd like, and a recruiter right here, and he'd like, so, what have you got for me? What? Really? What are you thinking? It didn't go over well. I had recruiters tell me about this. It didn't play well. Think about that first impression. I know. It pains me to even tell that story. But I do it because maybe he was nervous. I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't have otherwise done it if he hadn't just had a moment. I don't know. Get prepared and you won't have those moments. Okay? They notice everything. Everything. They notice how prepared you are. The more prepared you are with the resume, with the list, with the strategy, with the attire, with the 30-second introduction, the more prepared you are, the more prepared you're going to feel. And the more prepared you're going to feel, the better you're going to perform. I mean, that's just the way it is. If you feel like you've studied hard for a test, you typically do fairly well. If you know you didn't put in the time to prepare for that test, how well do you usually do? You might get lucky. Am I right? You might get lucky. Most of the time you don't. right? This is the test. This is the test for this semester. Okay. And remember, they think about everything. Questions for me, because I want to leave a lot of time. We've got another half an hour. I want to leave a lot of time for questions for you. Sarah, did I forget anything? Do you think? Did I forget a thing?
I think you've done good.
Okay, so questions for me, questions for Sarah, questions for us.
What about the thank you note?
Thank you note. I would send thank you emails to those companies that you talked to at Career Fair that you were keenly interested in. And I would keep track of those by collecting business cards. Now maybe they didn't, it always stuns me that they don't bring enough, or some of them don't bring them at all. Really? It's a career fair. If you can get contact information for someone at the table of that company, and some of them are going to bring 2 people, and some of them may have 6 around this thing. It's going to be a small cocktail high table. If you can get contact information for just one of the recruiting team, then you can send that email to that representative of the recruiting team and ask him or her to pass it on to the rest of the team that was there. You can do that. Oh, one other thing. I did forget this. You may have an experience like this. You've been talking to a recruiter, and then you've handed them, you did a 30-second intro, everything was smooth, you really like this, you've applied for a job with them already, and the recruiter says, you know, I love this resume, I've really enjoyed talking to you, I know you're interested because you've already applied for a full-time job with us. I've got a couple of team members here with me today. They're right down there in row 28. I was wondering if you had 10 minutes or so that I could maybe walk you down there. And we'd love to interview you for 10 or 15 minutes right here at the fair. Yeah, that's not beyond the scope of possibility right there. Right there. So you need to be thinking about that too. We may or may not know that that's going to happen. Sometimes they plan to do it, especially recruiters who have been here before, and they know they've got all this real estate. We tell them, hey, you know, you've got all these seats. If you find one of our kids that, and we use that word as a term of endearment, if you find one of our kids that you really like, you do not let them leave here today without somebody on your team at least briefly interviewing them. So we invite them to do it. Sometimes they even plan to do it before the invitation, and sometimes they see their competitors doing it, and then they think, uh-oh, I'm not in the game. And then they start doing it. So don't be surprised if that happens. How do you get ready for that? Well, if it's a company you're really interested in and you've done a little pre-company research, right? The other thing you can think about is some of the questions that we hear most often asked. And I'll give them to you right now. You probably will have to answer something like, because this is the team that hadn't met you yet. They're down here on row 28, these 2 people. They'll probably say, tell me a little bit about yourself. Very, very common. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You probably will get, in a situation like that, you might get a strengths and weaknesses question. Share with me one of your strengths. And then the follow-up question is, well, then share with us one of your weaknesses. You might get a goal-setting question. It can be general. It can be very specific. It can be, give me one professional goal that you've set. So I'd set one, because if they're that specific, you're going to need one to articulate, right? Or it may be, so, tell me where you want to be in 5 years. Same kind of question, very different appropriate answer in a lot of cases. Tell me where you want to be in 5 years. You could say, you know, I'm not exactly sure where I want to be, but I'm doing some things to figure it out. And part of that is being here at the career fair, and I'm seeking an internship or whatever it is, and that's going to help me make some, that's an okay answer. But they're probably a goal-setting question. Oftentimes they will ask you a problem-solving question. It may be very, very straightforward. Tell me about a problem you had to solve, the steps you took to solve it. Very straightforward. Or they may say something like this. Tell me about a time when you had to be innovative. What? Same question. Same question. Tell me about a time when you had to be innovative. Means there was something that you had to figure out and solve. Okay. Oftentimes they will ask you to articulate your greatest success. A follow-up in many cases is, share with me what your greatest failure's been. I have a friend who comes here and recruits, and that's one of her favorite questions. For the weakness question, for the failure question, it's important to remember that they don't care what you're weak at, and they don't care what you failed at. They don't care. They want to know for the weakness question what you're doing to address it. And for the failure question, they want to know what were the takeaways, what did you learn from the experience, and how are you applying what you learned. Another question that you might get is something team related. Tell me about a time when you were on a team that had a deadline. There are team related questions you can maybe anticipate having something like that. Before we go any further with any maybe impromptu questions, I wanted to take a second and go over what STAR is. Are y'all familiar with STAR, the STAR method? Okay. For those of you who aren't, the STAR method is a method that we coach that helps you field these behavioral questions. That's what those open-ended tell me about a time when things are. The story questions, those are behavioral questions. And STAR is just an acronym to remind you that when you're asked one of those open-ended questions, you describe situation, that's the S, task, action you took, or action you took as part of a group, and then results of the action. Situation, task, action you took, results of the action. Okay. Anytime you get the behavioral, open-ended, you fall immediately back on situation, task, action you took, results of the action. With the knowledge that they are way more interested in what you did and how it turned out. The biggest mistake students make with STAR is they spend too much time setting up the situation and talking about the task and not enough time talking about what they did and how it turned out. And what you did and how it turned out is all they're interested in. It's all they're interested in. So you give them enough information to frame the context, and then you hammer home what you did and how it turned out. Okay? Everything is results-based. The results of your performance at this career fair is directly related to how much preparation you put into the fair. Okay? Everything is results-based. The companies that come here to recruit are hiring two kinds of students and only two kinds of students. Students who can make money and students who can save them money. Or, what does that mean? Students who can get results. So as you think about the stories that you'll tell, make sure you focus on results. Now, you may get a question, even in an impromptu interview like that, where the question has a negative connotation to begin with. Tell me about a time when you were on a team and you had a deadline and you didn't make the deadline. Oh, great. I have to tell them about a time when me and my team screwed up and we didn't make a deadline. Great, that's good. They don't care about that negative result. What they want to know is what did you learn from it and how are you applying it? How did that negative result change you, make you a better professional? What did you learn from it? It's all about the takeaways. Okay. So a negative result is not necessarily a bad thing as long as you can articulate the takeaways. Okay? Last question they might ask you, either in an impromptu interview or any job interview, is this one. Why should we hire you? Why should we hire you? This one flips people out. They have no idea. And this is the easiest question in the world. The easiest question in the world. When they say, why should we hire you, it gives you the opportunity to hammer home the 3, maybe 4 core competencies that you have that you know they're interested in. Especially if you've already applied for a job with them, because you print that job description. Print every time you apply for a job, print the job description. Because when you get the interview, maybe not this impromptu one, but when you get an interview, then you're going to come in, we're going to sit down, and we're going to go through that job description, and we're going to highlight the core competencies so we know what they're looking for. And then we're going to walk you through the core competencies you have that they're particularly interested in. So when they say, why should we hire you, you can articulate the 3, maybe 4 things that are your core competencies that you know they're interested in. And oh, by the way, here's evidence of how I do all 4 of them. And if you want the job, say it. If you want the job, you have to say it. You have to say it. Last Friday, Sarah and I and 2 other members of our selection committee team were interviewing our 8 candidates over the phone for our undergraduate career counselor position. The last candidate was the only one who said, I can see myself in this job. This is almost a quote, right, Sarah? I can see myself in this job 5 years from now, even 30 years from now, because this is the job that I want. Okay? You can say, I'm at career fair today, I've investigated lots of different possibilities. This is the internship that I think fits my skill set the best. This is the one that I really want. You want to ask for it. They need to know. They want somebody that wants them. Kind of like bid day. You want somebody that wants you, right? You may end up with some that don't necessarily want you, but you want somebody that wants you. Right? If you want it, you got to say it. So impromptu interview. Certainly if you do the impromptu interview at the fair, that's a company you must thank for not only their attendance at career fair and talking to you at career fair, but interviewing you at career fair. Okay. Post fair, day after fair, you've sent the emails to the ones that you're really interested in. Now's the time that you have to make sure you are ever diligent with your use of CareerLink. That's how we manage on-campus recruitment. That's where a lot of these people are gonna start posting their jobs. That's where you're gonna go to apply. You have to make sure you keep up with those kinds of things, because there will be upcoming phone interviews for you and on-site interviews for you and maybe on-campus interviews for you, and you're gonna have to make sure you manage all those. Okay? Questions for me? Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. How many copies of your resume do you recommend taking? I mean,
One way you can
I
start.
don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah, I know. Well, one thing the question was, and I don't know if the video picked it up. The question was, how many copies of your resume do you take? What I would do is I would take my highlighted list. I would certainly have one for every one that I highlighted, and I would add maybe 20% to that. The last thing you want to do is get over there, go ripping through your list. Things are going fine. You've talked to everybody on your list. You've given out every resume you brought. You're about to get on the elevator to get back on the bus, and somebody runs up to you and says, wow, have you talked to those people over there at Ross Stores? They have an internship in New York over the summer. They had 3 Arkansas students do it last summer. They've already offered one of them a full-time position. He started his senior year. This is true. He started his senior year this year with a full-time. Have you talked to him? No? And what do you not have anymore? You ran out. So then you got to get on the bus. You got to run over here. You got to hope you can get to a place where you can print some more. You got to get back on the bus. You got to get back over there by 3 o'clock. So I don't know. I'm a plan B, C, and D girl. So I'd have a whole bunch. But that's at least one way you can get an idea. Yes?
Should we bring references as well?
Nope, you won't need references, but you need to have some established, because once you get into an interview process, there will be asked for. You won't need them for the fair, yes.
Is 3 references about?
3 to 5, I wouldn't go more than 5. You can think of references in 3 main categories too, as you're trying to decide who to put on there. A personal reference not related to you that can attest to your character. An academic reference, Perhaps a faculty member that can attest to your academic ability, your ability to meet academic type deadlines, that kind of thing, participation in class, those kinds of things. And then a professional reference, somebody that you worked for, a former supervisor, that kind of thing. Of those three, the one that's the least important is the personal reference. The one that's the most important, we respect and love our faculty, but it is the professional reference. Okay? So think in terms of three, no more than five. I'd get all their contact information, and that includes an email address and a phone number. Some people still do the old school phone reference, happens all the time. Somehow I'm a reference for half of Walton, and that's okay. And I do a great phone reference, so anybody. But I've also just been sent a spreadsheet from a company on behalf of candidate XYZ. Could I please fill out the spreadsheet and email it back to company XYZ? Weird, but it happens. And it was a reference, so I don't know. So phone, email as well. Not necessarily so much snail mail address, but definitely phone and email. Yes?
I know we'll probably go over this on the extreme makeup resume
Yep.
thing, but is it going to be really important to keep our resumes to one page?
Yep.
Because we're-
Yep. One page front. Not even stuff on the back. Yes?
Do we wait for them to ask for our resume?
I would offer it when I walked up to the table. One of the things you can do is just, as you're walking up, especially as you're walking up, you're making eye contact with them, but you're also noticing what did the student just in front of me do? Did they, if there was a student just in front of you, did they just accept a resume from them? Or do I see a pile of resumes anywhere near that table? Do I? But I'd offer it. And let them say, you know, we're not collecting them here at the fair. But that way you know you want them to have it, and they know you want them to have it. Yes, sir.
Will they be arranged in alphabetical order?
Yep, alphabetical order. We used to try to separate competing companies. You know, we didn't want anybody that's head-to-head competitors in a particular industry or whatever to be next to each other. We're just going to assume that they can play well with others, because it's too big now to try to mess around with any sort of arrangement that's not alphabetical. Yes?
Is there anything else we need to bring along with the resume, or is that?
As you're bringing your resumes, you probably want to have them in some sort of portfolio. I would bring a pen, even though some of them are going to probably be giving pens away. I'd bring a pen because you're going to want to make sure you have something to take notes with, specific to companies you really liked or something like that. So I'd bring a portfolio with resumes and something to write with. Yes?
Does it look bad to bring a purse?
It doesn't. And thank you for asking that question, because I forgot to say, we will have a place where you can check your backpack. I would recommend doing that because the space is going to be crowded. If you want to bring your purse, you can. If it's big, it might get unwieldy, but you sure can. You can bring it. Yes, sir.
Question about the references for the professional reference.
Yep.
Is it better to have like your direct manager that you work with day to day, or like the boss? That's not.
I think you could have either one. If I'm a recruiter, I'm going to be more interested in your day-to-day work ethic, and so I would want to talk to someone who really had intimate knowledge of that. Other questions?
About the time.
Type of paper? Good question. Question is type of resume paper. We used to advocate resume paper, not so much anymore. You can just print it on regular paper if you want to. That way it's all white paper. No weird colors, please. No weird colors. We've had students in years past print resumes on interesting colors so they find their way to the top of the stack, and they find their way into the trash instead of the top of the stack. So. Other questions? None? Do you feel better? Okay. Do you feel better? Now you have work to do. I mean, now you have a list. You have your pre-fair checklist. You know what you have to do pre-fair, and you know how to approach the fair itself, and you know what to do when you get there. So work through this pre-fair checklist and make sure you're ready. Make sure you're ready. That's why we're having these sessions. Okay, well, thank you guys for coming.